like to call the September 11th, 2025 Board of Education work session to order. George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell? Mr. Griffin?
Here.
Mr. Micko?
Here.
Ms. Stachek?
Here.
And Mrs. Hausum?
Here. We're all present. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda are strategic priorities. Our district has developed and is currently engaged in a 3-year strategic plan which reflects the values, beliefs, and hopes of our students, staff, parents, and community. There are 4 strategic priorities to the plan: transforming teaching and learning, aligning staff and resources, cultivating culture and climate, and leveraging funding and facilities. Our strategic priorities give actionable focus to our district's purpose and mission and guide the work of our strategic plan. Next, public comment. I don't have any slips. All right, so we will keep moving. We did have need for an agenda change. The following changes were made to the agenda: removal of action consent item under Section J, Student Services, Family First Solutions, LLC. Next on the agenda, we have approval of minutes from August 28th and regular meeting minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of the August 20th, 2025 regular board meeting. All audio recordings will be permanent record part of the minutes and are available upon request through the Treasurer's Office. Video recordings shall be maintained based on the availability of the selected digital online platform. And that will move us right into our first discussion topic, the levy bond issue. I just wanted to preface it before I turned it over to George that since Kevin has joined us at the beginning of June, we have not had a conversation, the 5 of us together, regarding the levy and bond issues that we have been discussing in an ongoing discussion. So I just wanted to make sure that the 5 of us were all on the same page. George has prepared some slides for us, so I'm going to turn it over to George for him to go through those.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausum. Yeah, as Mrs. Hausum said, I've prepared some slides just to facilitate the conversation. Within the slides is kind of broken down between the operating levy options there, the various options that we have, the pros and cons for each option, and again for the bond levy and the pros and cons, and then at the end the timeline that we will need to follow. So kind of why are we here? The operating expenses beginning in fiscal year 2025, which was the last fiscal year that just passed, the district's expenditures exceeded revenues by $3 million, meaning when expenditures exceed revenues, we're spending more than we're bringing in, so we're spending down our savings. So last fiscal year was between just rounding about $3.5 million. This fiscal year we're projected about $9 to $10 million. And then in November 2021, residents renewed a 5-year $6 million renewal levy with collections beginning in January 2023, and then collections will continue through December 31st of 2027 if not renewed. The levy represents about $8.5 million, and this renewal levy was originally passed in 2002. And then for the bond, our district facilities, a bond issued to address our aging elementary buildings and other facility needs. So just a quick glance at the forecast. This is from the May 5-year forecast with FY 2025 updated. At the next board meeting, September 2025, the actual forecast for the fall for FY 26 will be adopted. These forecasted numbers will be slightly different as these were just carried over from May as we're updating the forecast now. But as you see in FY 25, we had deficit spend by $3.2 million, spending down our cash balance, leaving us, as we close the fiscal year, with $46.1 million, which was 51% of expenditures. This year, we're projected to spend, here on the graph I'm showing, 10.9, so it'll be about 10 to possibly $12 million deficit spend. We'll finish, meaning that we're spending more money than we're bringing in, spending down the cash balance to about $35 million, leaving us with a 37% of cash to expenditures. And then that trend continues in the following years. And the next fiscal year will be about 13 million. And then in '28, if the renewal levy is not renewed or that gap widens, which will be down to 7.4 million or 7%. And then in '29 will be at a cash deficit as the spend down is not sustainable. So to me, that important number is the revenues over expenditures. As that gap continues to widen, it's more challenging to close and becomes more sustainable in the future. Or not sustainable in the future. The next slide is kind of a summary of what I just kind of went over. The top part is the cash balance with the levies renewed. The cash balance is without the levies renewed. So as you see that the spend down quickly escalates, and then in 2029, when it's completely off the books, if nothing's done, the cash deficit is significant, and by law we cannot end in a cash deficit. What would happen is if we do nothing right now, and if we just wait, this September I have to file forecasts. The FY29 will be in the fourth year. Next school year, the filing deadline changes to August. Once we file the forecast in August, and if nothing has changed at that time, FY29 will be the third year of the forecast, and that is the year that the state will, once we file it and the state reviews the data, we will get a letter sometime in the winter stating that you have this pending deficit, you have X number of days to respond with a plan, what are you going to do? And then from there, they'll determine some sort of fiscal status. Or they may just jump ahead and determine that fiscal status as you're waiting for your plan. Any questions on that so far before I go into operating levy considerations? All right, so operating levy considerations. So what we have is, one, we know we have the renewal that's coming up, the 2002 renewal that was last renewed in 2021. It expires in tax year 2026. However, the collections years always lag behind the tax year, so it comes off the books in November of 2027. That's the last collection. Our first opportunity to renew it is in November of 2026, which is the last tax year for it. And then our final time to renew it is in November of 2027. So the opportunities that we have for is November 26, May of 27, November 27, if we're looking just to renew it. Pros to keep the renewal, we maintain $8.5 million in annual funding. It preserves our 5-year renewal cycle, allowing voters to input every 5 years. And then, because when it was originally passed back in 2002, the homestead and rollback credits remain, providing an estimated $1.1 million in tax relief. So any new levies that were approved after 2015, that credit is no longer there. We're still receiving the same amount. The homestead and rollback is credits that the homeowners receive that's reimbursed by the state. Those will remain if this levy is renewed. Any new levies, that credit is not there, so it's just the taxpayers don't receive the credit. Cons of the renewal, creates voter fatigue and confusion with another property tax issue on the ballot, and does not account for an increase in expenses and inflation for 25 years when the original levy was approved back in 2002. For a new operating levy, our district expenditures are exceeding revenues by $12 million. That is with that other renewal in there. So we're exceeding revenues by $12 million, which will result in a cash deficit by fiscal year 28-29 if not resolved. Pros for the new levy, ensures district financial sustainability, avoids significant budget cuts, and maintains current educational programs. Cons to a new operating levy, again, creates voter confusion with 2 levy issues on the ballot. And then other considerations is that we would need to think about if we want to do a new operating levy is the length of a new operating, the length of the levy is meaning how long do we want those funds to last before we have to go back out for another new operating levy or reductions? And then that'll drive the millage amount. With that, depending on how long we want to last, it could drive a larger cash balance, as extending the time between levy requests results in larger cash balances, meaning if we want it to last greater than 5 years, we would see an increase in cash balance, kind of like we did similar now, where then as expenditures increase, that cash balance is drawn down in the later years, because revenue with property taxes due to House Bill 920 for us, besides the inside millage, essentially property taxes remain flat or these levies remain flat as expenditures that continue to incline. So you get that influx in the beginning, and then as expenditures catch up, that's where the spend down happens. And then also considering if we have a new operating levy, do we want it a continuing versus a renewal, as we have another renewal on the books? So just things to think about. And then another option, combining a renewal with a new operating levy. Combining a renewal with a new operating levy as one issue, the pros. Residents can vote on one issue rather than two separate issues, eliminating confusion. It ensures district financial sustainability, and it could mitigate, avoid, or minimize budget cuts and maintains current educational programs. Cons of renewal, or cons to combining with a new operating levy. Request would be a higher millage amount due to combining both issues. The current effective tax rate for the current renewal levy is 3.7 mils to generate the $8.5 million. And then it also eliminates the state tax dollars for homestead and rollback credits. And just to kind of get an idea, I'm not going to go through each one, but on the next slide is the chart of here's what certain millages represent. This is how much it is to the district. The next chart is the collection rate that we would get, and it's the cost per $100,000 evaluation. So, for example, just not making any recommendations as one, but just for ease, I'll just pick 1 mil. So 1 mil generates about 2.3 million. With the current collection rate, we would receive about 2.275, and the tax on that is $35 per 100,000. So you can see how the chart works from there on.
To clarify, George, that's annually?
What's that?
$35
Annually, yeah.
annually.
For 1 mil. So the next item, combining renewal with new operating levy, May of 2026 election versus May of 2027 election. This is if we do it now versus waiting another year. Pros to May of 2026, ensures district financial sustainability. It foregoes the renewal if approved, meaning if we combine it in May as one, our renewal doesn't officially expire until the following November. So we would combine it, and then we would just let the renewal expire with this natural course. And then it also avoids significant budget cuts and maintains current educational programs, meaning that if we go back to the first slide about the revenues over expenditures, it mitigates the quicker we mitigate that gap, the easier it is versus waiting down another year down the road where it gets a little challenging. Challenging in the sense that just the gap widens. And then cons to May of 2026, if we move forward with a bond issue, voters will be voting for multiple issues. There could be voter fatigue and perception of our cash balance. That although we're spending down this year, because there'll still be this fiscal year, we're deficit spending by $10 million. We'll still end the fiscal year with about $35 million. Combining a renewal levy with a new operating levy in May of 2027 versus 2026, the pros to the May of 2027 election. If we would go for the bond issue this May, it separates the two issues, separates the operating levy from the bond levy, and then the spend down cash balance for another fiscal year would put us at 23%, which is under our 90 days cash balance policy at the 25% threshold. The cons to the 2027, due to the increasing gap of expenditures exceeding revenues, we may need to make reductions in addition to a new levy to balance the budget. And as I touched on this at the beginning, at the filing of if we wait that year, at the filing of the August 2026 forecast, the third year will be fiscal year 29, which will represent a cash deficit, which will be flagged by the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce for fiscal status of caution watch, in which the district will need to submit a plan to address the negatives. Any questions on that so far? All right, and then the next couple slides is just more of an alternative consideration, as we'll see on one of my last slides with other statewide issues where there's been a lot of contention with property taxes, and this is just more to think about. There's income tax levies that are out there too, and the types of income tax levies is you have your traditional income tax levy, which includes all wages, retirement income, pension, interest and dividends, and then you have earned income tax type levy, which is just your wages and salaries and tips, and it excludes pension, Social Security income, retirement income, interest, dividends, or capital gains. Not going to go into the list of schools, but they're there. If you want to click, it takes you to the Department of Tax website that shows the school districts that have an income tax levy. Of the ones that do, 146 districts are on the traditional income tax levy, which is all wages, retirement income, interest income, pensions, and dividends, and 64 districts that have an earned income tax levy, and there's none currently in Cuyahoga County. And then this next chart, I'm not going to go into the specifics, but what the Department of Tax, and this is just more for your reference, but just kind of go over it quickly. What the Department of Tax does is, by request, they put, I just asked them for this information, and on this column here, this will be the equivalent property tax millage. So for example, if we're looking at I'll just use 1%. A 1% traditional income tax would generate $22 million. That's the equivalent to a 9.9 mil property tax levy. And then a 1% earned income tax levy would generate 16.3 million. That's the equivalent of a 7.5 property tax levy. So if you're looking for a certain property tax levy, that's the equivalent income tax. So any questions on how to read that?
Not on how to read it, but it seems like the income tax levies are not popular around here. Do you have an explanation as to why?
You know what? I don't have an opinion, but let me go to the next slide, and maybe
Okay.
that'll
Thank you.
clear, because I do have a in comparison. So so for example, not recommending 6 mils, I just kind of use that as a comparison. So a 6 mil property tax levy generates about $13.9 million. The cost per 100,000 home valuation is $210. Currently, the average home value on Zillow for this month is $363,000. Just a reminder, although it's on Zillow, the county value might be less. So just looking at that, if the cost per 100,000 on a $210, if the cost per 100,000 on the 6 mil property tax levy is $210, the home valuation is $363. That average cost per home is about $756. Now looking at a traditional income tax per $100,000 of income, that is $625. So, and then on the earned income tax, it's $875 for $100,000 in wages. So it depends on I guess it depends on the income status, where an income tax could cost you a lot more versus a property tax based on the value of your home. That's why I'm thinking it's not as popular here in Cuyahoga County, in this area, it's more based on looking at the districts. It's more in the rural areas where they have a lot of property. So for them, it might have been cheaper for the residents. But now it's kind of just looking at as a comparison as to the makeup of your city and what's more a reasonable option for that area. So I don't have an opinion on either one, just wanted to present that we do have alternative options. And I do believe, just kind of going down a little bit of this rabbit hole, is where property taxes are subject to House Bill 920 as long as you're not on the 20 mil floor. I don't think there is a limit for that. So if the city wealth increase, the income increases, we'll see an increase there as well. So just things to think about versus the inflationary differences between the two with a property tax levy with the House Bill 920. So if the board wants me to explore this further, just let me know. And the other difference is the property tax levies will receive those more immediate. For example, if it was approved in calendar year 2026, whether it was the May election or the November election of 2026, we'll start receiving those funds immediately in calendar year 2027, where an income tax, it has more of a delay on it. For example, if it was approved in 2026, you won't start collecting until the following first quarter, and then it's all depending on when people are filing their tax returns. If it's by April, the chart that they have is about 1.5 years after collection. And I'm not going to go into the chart, but there's a timeline if you want to see it. Like the first quarter, you would receive 6%, then 20%. The third quarter, 36% of the total amount. The fourth quarter, 52%. You're not really seeing it until like 1.5 years down the road at the first 100%. So any questions on operating, or do you want to save the questions until we get board discussion at the end? Okay. So that was operating levy. Now going into bond levy, which they're two different pots of money, where operating is strictly for operating expenses, and anything is considered operating, where bond goes into a bond retirement fund. We would issue, essentially get a loan, go to the market, receive bond proceeds to pay for construction, and then kind of like a mortgage, you're paying that back over 35 to 37 years out of the bond retirement fund. Over the past year, Dr. Iba has hosted various stakeholder groups for different types of elementary plan designs. Ultimately, we settled on the yellow plan, which is here. So the 3 new elementary schools, renovation at Kinsner, and renovate Muraski for the preschool and the administration building. The estimated cost from GPD, this is just for the elementary construction and the Muraski preschool and admin office, is $151 million. This doesn't include any other types of facilities. This is just the yellow plan breakdown for the school buildings and preschool and administration office. Just at $151 million, the cost for that on a bond size, you can estimate, but you don't know the interest rate and the length until you go out to market to get those bonds, and that's not until after the voters approve it, but it's anywhere in between. So if we're looking at 150 to 155 million based on the chart, over here on the left is the assumed interest rate. The first chart is the millage amount, and then the bottom chart is the cost per $100,000 of home valuation. So we're looking anywhere between a 3.5 to 3.8 millage amount for that, and then depending on the variables, the cost per 100,000 would be anywhere between 118,000 to about 131,000 or $118 per $100,000 valuation to $131 per 100,000.
How come Whitney's demolition is so much cheaper than other ones?
That I don't know. We'll have to circle back with
It's
GPD.
more than half of Sarara, I just wondered.
Do you know, Cameron? We'll circle back with GPD.
A lot of times it's less mitigation that they have to do at the buildings, but that's typically the cost variance.
So bond levy considerations, the first one is more of the traditional. Option one, we do the complete yellow plan, meaning that we go for the ballot for the full amount that we need at one time. The pros, it ensures equity across all neighborhoods and all buildings, opens new buildings sooner, it avoids inflationary construction costs from delays. And then the cons is the higher millage request of 3.4 to 3.7 per home valuation, or $118 to $129 annually per home valuation over the 36 to 37 years. Option two is still the yellow plan, but it's two different bond issues. Go half now and then half later, kind of phasing in the millage. The issue is that you would have to get that approved twice. And then the pros is you phase in the tax increases gradually. The cons is it could create inequity between neighborhoods and buildings, may divide community support between those receiving immediate funds versus those with the delayed improvements, and it also risks voter confusion from having multiple ballot issues and bond requests on the ballot. And then the last one, option three, is going similar to option one. It's kind of a combination of the two going, option one getting the full voter approval with one vote, but kind of staggering the construction of the buildings, and then also the debt issuance as well, where if we already have the approval, we can issue X number of debts now, and then 2 to 3 years issue the later debt down the road, but that also would have to align with construction costs. You can't build them all and then issue the debt later, because you need the proceeds to pay for the building, so it kind of aligns the construction. And then the other thing, as we've been kind of going down this rabbit hole, this might just happen naturally anyways, based on, we're going to meet with the construction companies, and even if we do the yellow plan, can they build them all at the same time, or is there going to be a natural delay? Not delay, but staggering of the construction. So the pros, it phases in the tax increases gradually, requires only one ballot issue for full project approval. As just mentioned, may occur naturally due to construction logistics. And then also, because of that, under federal law, when these bonds are tax-free bonds for our purposes, and we have 3 years to spend 85% of the proceeds. So if the construction company can't build all of it within a certain period of time, we may have to stagger them anyways. Just the cons, it creates inequity between the neighborhoods and buildings. Which two are you building first? Again, may divide community support between those receiving immediate and delayed improvements. There's interest rate volatility between multiple bond issues, meaning we know what kind of the interest rate is now, what's going to be the interest rate a couple years down the road. Is it going to be favorable, unfavorable? So there might be some differences between the two issues. And then the other I just learned about by doing this research is there's currently litigation in Ohio with a county auditor and a school district that is kind of doing something similar, where they had one voter approval and there were going to be two separate bond issues. So the contention, currently under Ohio law, you can, if just for this purpose, let's just say if we split $80 million now and $80 million down the road, and the first $80 million is 37 years, the second bond issue could also be 37 years. So now you have two separate bond issues with two 37-year paybacks. The current litigation is, the auditor's view is, no, once that clock starts on the 37 years, you have 37 years, that you're in that same time frame to pay that second bond issue down, no matter when you issue it. So let's just say you issue the first one for 37 years, and then 3 years later you go out and try and get that second one. Now you have 34 years to pay down that second one, which would be a higher millage amount and also interest rate volatility. So we don't know when that's going to be resolved. Our attorney today kind of mentioned hopefully it's resolved by March, but he was also hoping it was resolved a year ago. So that's kind of out in limbo as well. And then just other considerations. There's currently statewide issues, as we've kind of been hearing about. There's a proposed State of Ohio constitutional amendment to eliminate property taxes. There's currently a governor's work group that they have to make a recommendation by the end of the month for property tax reform. And then there's also these various House bills that are being introduced regarding tax reform, eliminating certain types of levies, requiring voter approval for inside millage. So that was one that was just, I think, introduced the past week and a half. And then implementing increased and staggered passage rates for levies, meaning right now you just need 50% in one vote to pass an issue. The proposal is, depending on the size of the levy, it could mean the 51, 60%, and so on. So that's out there as well. And then future implications. Some of these options that we talked about now may not be available under some of these proposed reforms. And then timeline, just hope that this would help with the conversation, is if we're looking at a May 2026 ballot, or May 20 ballot issue, for this month, next meeting, I'll present the 5-year forecast, which kind of give us a little bit better picture of our future. Be similar to what was the front one, but at least be updated. We need to finalize the construction and LFI scope and budget. October, next month, kind of finalize the overall construction budget. And then at our October 9th board meeting, we'll at least need to adopt the OFCC master plan scope and budget to submit to the OFCC for our project agreement. So it would be anything that was covered under for the elementary buildings. For that part. Cameron, the other facilities we don't need by October 9th, do we? Or we need everything by October 9th?
October 9th is just the ones that would qualify under the OFCC and L
So that's
program.
going back to that $151 million budget. So we would need to finalize that for the October 9th to submit it to the OFCC so they can begin the project agreement. And then at the October 23rd board meeting, we would need board consensus on all the issues and what we're going to do. The millage amounts, the levy types, the proposed ballot issues. That way, for the first meeting in November, we need to begin resolution number 1. The resolution of necessity, and then also because of the amount of the bond issue, we're in excess of our, I'm drawing a blank on the term, but the legal amount that we're allowed to go out for debt, so we have to get permission from the tax commissioner. So there'll be a resolution for that baked in there, so that's why we need the additional time. And then by the second board meeting in November, hopefully we can receive back the project agreement from the OFCC to have that approved. If it's not received by the November 20th board meeting, we could also do it in December. And then in December, we'll need to file, the board will need to adopt resolution number 2 to get on with the Board of Elections for these ballot issues that were in resolution number 1. And then just to kind of confirm, resolution 1 requires 3 affirmative votes for passage, while resolution 2 requires 4 affirmative votes for passage. And then January of 26, the OFCC board would approve the L project agreement, and then sometime in February, the OFCC controlling board will approve the project agreement. So Laura, that's all I have. I'll just turn it over to the board for any discussion, questions.
I just have a quick question. What can you remind me of what LFI stands for?
Yeah, local funding initiatives. So those are costs that are not, that are out of the scope, out of the OFCC's purview for construction, whether it's extra extracurricular facilities such as athletics, music. They're just funding classroom facilities. So anything that's outside of that or any modifications that we want to make to a certain area of the school.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? So again, we don't need to make any decisions tonight. We just wanted to have this discussion, make sure that we all had all the same information. Again, any questions for George? Any comments?
My only comment is just appreciation, George, for
Yeah.
putting this work together.
Thank you.
It's really well done, and it, I think, explains not only for us, but our community. But this is excellent work, so thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything that anybody wants to go back over?
I mean, we've seen the information in various forms over and over again. I think it's sobering. But it also highlights that the board has to come to consensus, some kind of consensus in fairly short order. You know, the hard deadlines, if we choose to go on the ballot in May, we have to start making decisions, what is it, the November 9th board meeting, which is not that far away. And it would be good to recognize that we will have a change of the guard. So there's going to be a bit of baton handing off for this race. But I do think, for me, the key part is coming up with consensus at the next meeting of what we expect to do. I can say for myself, some of the alternative funding options, based on the fact that they're not in effect anywhere in Cuyahoga County. I know I've considered them before, et cetera, but I don't see us at this point in time seriously considering any of that. And I also don't know if we have time to seriously consider any of that. An income tax, a school district income tax would be a radical change in how we fund schools in Cuyahoga County. I'm not saying it'll never be approached, but I think we need to limit our considerations. So I would suggest that that's off the table, and that what we need to do is concentrate on a traditional property tax levy and then determine as a team how we want to structure that. And we now have a very delineated, specific menu of what those options are with the perceived pluses and minuses. So I think with our homework, we'll be ready to come to consensus at our next board meeting so that we can then follow the next steps.
I agree. And thank you for, like I said, I was not aware of the property tax or the income tax, so I'm glad. Thank you for going down that rabbit hole and explaining that to us. It's interesting, but I agree. It's not something that I think would work for us. But it's an interesting concept.
I just wanted to share something. I was at an event last night where Ohio Senator Tom Patton spoke, and he shared and reminded constituents of all the things that property taxes fund. So that suggested to me that he's out there supporting us in that fight. So I just thought it'd be pertinent to share that here today.
So it is a lot of information to digest. Again, thank you, George. I know you put a lot of work into this. We've all got homework to do, to go over all the information that George has given us and come back September 25th to give guidance.
No, I think October 9th.
October, oh, what did I
So-
say? September.
Yeah, so September 25th, we'll present the 5-year forecast.
Okay, thank you.
We could have
Yep,
more
we'll-
discussion on the operating too. if we-
Thank you. Yes, we'll do the 5-year forecast September 25th, and then we will finalize beginning of October.
In the meantime, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out.
All right. Thank
right.
you. Okay. And then George, you have nothing else for treasurer's report?
I have nothing else tonight.
You're holding it off for the second meeting?
I am. I have a few items for you then.
All right, I'll turn it over to Dr. Riva.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausum. All I have on, under my report for this meeting is a follow-up on our baseball and softball turf discussion. So I'm going to ask Jason to come on up to the podium. Obviously, he gave a thorough presentation last meeting in terms of athletic master facilities plan, focused in on the air inflated sports complex as well as the baseball softball fields. That's been an ongoing need for us for years. We've talked about the baseball softball turf project. And so a couple things that came out of that meeting was let's make sure we've got firm numbers as to what the estimates are. We gave an estimate last time we were here of $2.68 million. We were able to work through, we had a couple different estimates that were there. Steve and Jason and GPD and the team got together and put together an estimate that's linked to the agenda that you could see. That includes the extended field that we talked about, so we have more space in the baseball outfield for multi-use. And the total there is around $3.2 million, but that $3.2 million is more than just turf. If you look at it, it's fencing and foul poles and scoreboards and stands and dugouts and everything is in there as options, as you could see. And with any construction project, if you scroll through that, you will see contingencies, you will see different fees that are in there that just round out some of those dollar figures that are there. The other part that you asked about was, hey, baseball, softball, how much could they raise as a part of a combined effort, fundraising and district dollars? And so Jason's had those conversations, so I'll turn it over to Jason to share what he's found out.
Sure. Thanks, Board, for having me here tonight. So I'll start off with baseball. I talked to the coach and some people involved with their business partners and stuff, and they feel pretty firm in the fact that they can raise about $300,000. Talked to softball, talked to some of the families involved there. Their fundraising campaign would have some partners, but would be more of I would say, a grassroots effort. And they estimated anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 based on some of the fundraising they've done in the past.
So one of the things as Jason and I spoke is our football field, the turf at the middle school and the turf at the high school in the stadiums there is at the end of life. And as you saw in the presentation last time, those will be replaced this summer. So based on how we've gotten donation dollars, we have the funds to pay for that. And now, but we will be going out. Jason and his team have just finished kind of the marketing materials for the next turf sponsorship deal. So we've got, could be an opportunity, could be a challenge, right? So if we're taking a look at sponsorship dollars, we are also re-upping with all of our partners for the next 10 years for the football fields. For some of our partners, they love to look at other opportunities in the district. So that could be the advantage to say, hey, not only do we have Strongsville Middle School field, we've got Serpentini Field at Packatan Stadium as of right now. We've got this baseball field. What do you want? But we also have competing interests as well. So we're going to work that out, and we'll work through it. But it's just something that the timing is unique, and so something just to understand that big ticket fundraising items in a similar time frame.
The flagpole is $10,000.
That's what I was just thinking. I think it's 2,500. It's hard to see though.
So you're saying when you go out for these bigger sponsorships,
Oh, no, it's-
you might be able to wrap the baseball, softball into that? And
Correct. So
increase that number?
right now, Jason and I are, we've got meetings scheduled with two of our lead sponsors. And we will, when we talk to them, we'll also be sharing the opportunities for baseball and softball as well.
So that would be on top of what baseball and
I see.
softball have said they can contribute.
Yes, that would be, I don't think in your conversations they're talking about targeting the same people we are.
No,
Yeah.
these are all new partners or potential partners.
Okay. But part of that fundraising effort would be sponsorships of some kind that the baseball is arranging, or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Perhaps naming rights of things and sponsorships, and there will be different sponsorship levels depending on what's donated and how the partnership works.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
At one time, Athletic Boosters was considering like taking this on as a project. Are they still interested in partnering and helping at all financially?
I haven't talked to them specifically.
Okay.
I think there would be some help. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that would be a conversation we have. They like doing big things and great things, and this is definitely big and great.
Right. Okay. Other questions for Jason?
I will add for the sponsorships, similar to what we did with the football turf is, those came over time. So we paid for the turf up front, and then now the replacement turf is the money that we got back from all those sponsorships that we had in a fund that we're able to pay that, to use to replace the fund. So depending on how the baseball, softball sponsorships work out too, that might be a similar case where we pay for it now and then may receive some money up front now. We had that with turf as well, and possibly the items that Jason was referring to as well to offset it, but a lot of these sponsorships with our premier partners would be paid over time that either we use to replace the turf in the future or offset where it came from currently. Just kind of wanted to throw those logistics out there.
Jason, can you remind us of the timeline?
I think the hope was to have it ready for spring of '27.
So construction would start this summer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the plan would be for, same as the football fields, is that they would be put in the same, there is a cost savings. I mean, there's a cost savings if we do it together with the other projects, but it's not the exciting cost savings you would think it would be. It's a little something, right? But yes, it would be, as soon as we're done with baseball season, softball season, construction would start. That, we've got to work with them. That's our assumption right now, but that's what we've planned out for the other projects.
Great.
The lifespan, is it the same as the football field? Would it be
You can
8 to
probably,
10?
because it doesn't get the same amount of use and abuse, it probably is going to last longer. They said that it's 10 years, but they've been seeing longer than that at other complexes because it just doesn't get the wear that a football field, soccer field, lacrosse field gets.
Now, we were considering doing lines to make it more, I want to say multi-purpose, but to make it more than just baseball, softball. Is your statement of it lasting longer for a pure baseball, softball, or is it for irregardless?
Yeah, it's for all the things. So the drawings that we got had full-scale football, soccer lines built into there, and then it also had tick marks where during baseball season, it's a clean baseball field, but then come into the off-season, you can put some temporary paint and lines down where it could be used for baseball, softball, lacrosse.
But your statement about how long we can expect them to last, is that based on a multi-purpose field like
Correct.
we're discussing?
Yeah. So it doesn't have 3 levels of football practicing on it all fall. It doesn't have soccer practicing on it, lacrosse practicing on it all the time. So even though it would some of the time have those sports on there, it still is not going to get the wear that a full-fledged football, soccer, lacrosse field would have.
Okay.
And Jason, I know you've done some research with it, but you were educating me on the product that are available now. We bought a product 11 years ago. The product of these turf fields is completely different now and has more of a longevity to it and a more natural feel to it. So if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's lots of different products you can get. I guess the first thing that I will share is that the products that they're using today is much safer in terms of concussions and injuries than what was used previously. There's 2 different systems that can be used. One involves a pad underneath the turf, which is something that we don't have now, which makes it safer. And then the other one is longer fibers in the turf where you fill it with more of the little pellets, and that creates a safer space as well.
They haven't figured out how not to use those pellets yet.
Well, they do have a new product out there where it's, for a lack of better words, I'm going to call it sawdust instead, where it doesn't get as hot in the summer. But that type of infill has to get replaced much more often. and it's much more costly.
The cost that we have from GPD here, is that for one of the other that you just described?
Correct.
Either one are similar costs? Like the
Si-
pad or the extra pellets?
Yeah, I'd have to look to know specifically what was what, but this is for one of the specific ones. And I can get back to you
Sure.
on which one it is. I don't remember offhand.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
I do have another question. This has come up a handful of times in the community in regards to our current field, but if we're going to invest $3-point-some million into this, what is our long-term maintenance plan look like? Do we have one? Can we have one before we, put it in? Can you speak to that at all?
Sure. I talked to the maintenance department a little bit about this, and the maintenance plan would be similar to what we do at both stadiums, where there's regular grooming of the fields. It would require a little additional maintenance if you're putting on the temporary lines, so they'd have to get cleaned, and then, of course, the lines would have to get put on there, but the maintenance plan would be similar.
Do you think there's a cost savings generally, since it's not natural grass?
So for
In terms
the
of
annual
the
maintenance, yes. So if there's issues with the turf, it's going to require a cost to repair. So from that sense, it could be the same, it could be more, it just depends on what might get damaged. But in terms of looking through a baseball season, I don't have exact figures, but every year the district brings in a company to regrade the field and put some new crushed brick down. And then throughout the course of the year, they use a lot of drying agent, chalk, paint, and then man hours to groom it to get ready for gameplay.
Okay. Are there any other, or would there be additional plans for other revenue from rentals?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
And then, since other teams will be utilizing the field or fields, would we ask those other I don't know, band, lacrosse, others to help in the fundraising efforts there?
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
That might be through the Booster Club? Or the Boosters, okay, great.
And that's what we target when we did the football fields. We targeted soccer and marching band and football and all those sports, that lacrosse, In addition to what Jason said of the regular maintenance that our internal maintenance team does, we also pay an annual fee to Vasco, who comes and does service. They do service calls preventatively, and then they do service calls when there's damage or tears or things that need to be done at the field. So we have their services and our internal services to keep the field as best we can. And I guess what I would say as a testament is our fields need to be replaced, but Vasco came out, inspected them, said they're good for one more year. The 10-year field has lasted 11 years for us. So I think that's a testament to our internal plan, and use of Vasco as a partner has exceeded the recommended lifespan by at least 1 year.
And these dollars would come out of the 070 account, correct?
That's for the board to decide, but yes, I think that would be
So for the football
It
field,
could.
we already have the money set aside from an 04 fund where it came out of, but for the softball and baseball, yeah, it's for the board to decide.
So and then, just the brass tacks, we can pay for it out of the general fund, or we can pay for it out of the 070 fund.
Gotcha.
It's the 070 fund that we can only pay capital improvements out of.
Thank you.
Is there any other information that we need from Jason?
I do have one more, thing to share. So last time I was here, I had mentioned 11.5% of schools in Northeast Ohio have baseball and/or softball turf. Since we last met, NDCL just announced they are turfing parts of their field. So now it's between 12 and 12.5%. So not a huge difference, but again, it's just showing the trend that Northeast Ohio schools are all or will eventually transition to turf.
I feel like we've been having this conversation the entire time I've been on the board. I feel like it's about
I think Laura's
time.
been having it for 20 years.
Yeah, I feel like it's about time that we put a lot of time into thinking about it and talking about it, so
Mhm.
I feel like we have this conversation every couple months. I'm like, we haven't done that yet? So we've put good time into thinking about it
We have.
and haven't jumped the gun on it, so I think it's not.
Well, that's what we need to decide tonight.
Yeah.
Do we need more time to think about it?
I think we've thought about it for 4 years. At least you've thought about it for 20.
20.
I think that just goes to show that it's not going away.
Yeah.
Like, if it's literally been on the radar for the duration of your child's tenure in the district, like, it's not something that's going to go away.
I think we talked about this in the first meeting I ever was at, I'm almost certain of it. What, looking at to the contrary, say we didn't do this, what happens next year? Like, we have no choice, really.
It's not like the teams wouldn't play or practice.
Right, but
We would
there's
just
still-
we would have the same struggles that we've had previously.
But if it's like a 10-year guarantee on the field, and then we'd go into like year 12, like, there's a chance that there's like irreplaceable and unfixable things too, right? So it might become more expensive in the long run?
So yes, replacing the turf in the long run there's the large expense of doing that, so yes.
One of the things to just keep in mind as to why the cost is a little more expensive is because of the drainage and civil engineering work that needs to be done on those fields. So it's not just hey, let's skim off the top coat of dirt, let's put the substrate down and the turf. There's some groundwork that needs to be done. There's some reconfiguration of the field. So as you take a look at that, that's just something to consider. You're going to have a little higher price right now. And then it'll go down. It's kind of like the factor of when we did both for the football fields, we had to raise $1.8 million to do the football fields. Now the replacement cost is estimated at a little over $1 million. You know, because we had all of those bad soil we had to get rid of and drainage and things of that nature. So the lighter lift will be in 10 years from now if the
correct.
board should
Thank you.
choose to move forward.
I've learned a lot about suitable soil in the last couple of months.
Totally.
Never knew that was a thing until recently.
And Jason, while we're at it, are those legit, like real dugouts that are underneath, that are dug down? Or are they?
No, they're on the surface.
On the surface, okay.
Yeah. But, so what's quoted in there is not, they said it was on the high end.
Yeah.
To, for lack of better words, provide top-level dugouts. But I did not see anywhere where they were recessed into the ground at all.
And typically, when Steve would present these items for official board action, it would be that will not exceed
Right.
cost, which gives a cap for the cost of it, but gives some flexibility in terms of the scope of it.
So if we decide to move forward, next steps would be Steve getting the quotes? Is that
We
correct?
have, the next step would be to put it on the September 25th agenda for an official vote. Get everything written up as it needs to be written up and move forward from there.
Do we have to get like another quote, or do we just automatically go for GPD, or how does that work?
Well,
Well, we would,
go on.
depends on, I mean, it would have to go out for bid. So if we do the bidding, we wouldn't have it by the September 25th, but if it's coming through the OFC, or the Ohio Schools Council, they do the bidding for us, so I don't know where Steve got, if it's OSC bidding or,
We'll have to verify
Yeah.
on that, but most of these projects, I think all of these projects, since I've been here, Steve has done the OSC bidding, so it wouldn't have to go through the full RFP process, so that's something we can verify with him.
Is there any advantage to going through the whole RFP process?
That's George's expertise.
Getting a $10,000 flagpole for less.
Two $10,000.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, like, does it behoove us to get quotes?
yeah, so the OFC does it on school districts' behalfs. Other than the construction project, which wasn't here at the time, we've kind of always used the OSC, so food service was the only one, so we could ask the OSC their opinion, and some other districts, but,
Yeah, I would be curious what other districts have done.
because I think the OSC, you're kind of getting, if they're on, the advantage with them is they have a bigger client base. So the ones bidding there, they know that they're getting more volume. So it could be cheaper on that area.
So I'm going to offer a slightly contrarian opinion. I don't have any question about the plan. I don't have any question about the about the benefit of it. 10%, 12% of school districts currently have it. If we don't do this, they still will play baseball. They still will play softball, the same way they have for a number of years. I have this presentation, and it's detailed and it's excellent, but I'm balancing it with the presentation we had before it. And when we created the 070 fund, we verbalized that the goal for the 070 fund is to take that money and put direction to it that we're going to use it for elementary schools. We're now considering choosing to take that money and use it for softball fields. We haven't finished the conversation as a board about what are we going to go to the community for a bond. We haven't finished that conversation of the LFIs, local funded initiatives. We have the yellow plan, which is those elementary schools. We have all kinds of other things that are all very important, but we don't know what we as a board want to ask the voter to pass, to support. We don't know whether the voter is going to support it. And so the conservative contrarian in me is concerned that we're going to spend potentially $3 million. I respect the baseball and softball groups' moxie that they're going to raise $300,000 to $400,000, but we don't know. We have not even started, we have thought about starting the conversation for sponsorship for the next 10-year cycle of football. I think we need, I support going slow. I support continuing to get numbers. I think it's wise to have those sponsorship conversations and see what other business partners may or may not come back with, saying, hey, we have a vision for turf, for softball and baseball that'll improve everything. But I'm not ready to say, let's commit $3 million of school district dollars for this project when we have all of the other things that are larger priorities and larger issues that could very well be impacted. I mean, George is going to talk to us about a 5-year forecast that if the trend continues, we're going to be looking at that 070 fund and saying how much of it are we going to put back into our operating budget, because it's either do that or severe cuts. And all of those headwinds are coming. And so that's my concern, is going forward. I don't know how I tell myself that that's the wisest course of action. Let's continue down the path. Let's continue to get the information. Let's hope that, just like our football turf, our community came out in droves. I'm much more comfortable saying what we did with the football turf. Those sponsorships were 5-year plans. Those were 10-year plans. And we were in a position where we could say, instead of trying to get loans, we can loan ourselves the money interest-free. And then as the sponsorships come in, we pay that back, and we get to roll forward, which is what we're trying to do now. But I'm concerned about moving forward with approvals at this stage of the game, when we haven't clarified our plan for May, and we don't know whether that plan is going to be supported. And so I think we need to go slow.
Do we know the latest time we can make this decision to still have construction begin next summer?
I don't, do you, Jason?
I do not know.
I can find that out.
That would be a question I would like to know the answer to. And just to speak to what you shared, I don't necessarily disagree with anything you shared, But there is another voice in my ear, and that's the voice that, of our community who has voted down 3 consecutive renewal levies, who has said, spend the money. Spend the money. We don't like your plan of putting it aside. We want to see the bank account go down. And I think it's our job to balance. Is this the right thing to use our money on? I think that's the question we have to ask, not whether we should. Because I think they have been very clear with us that they don't really want us to save it and put it towards the elementary buildings. And if I'm wrong, I hope some community members come and share that with me, but that's the sense I've gotten. So for me, the question is this how we want to spend our money, not whether we should?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with both of you more. So the question really is, in the scenario you outlined, Rich, at what point in time will we have the green light to do something similar to the baseball softball project? Would that be after we find out that the bond or levy pass or not? And then to what extent could that $2.5 million, $3 million actually help fill the gap for some of the elementary school projects that we've already seen are relatively, they're expensive, right, in themselves. So I appreciate the logic. I agree with the logic. I think we're trying to do the will of the people, to Michelle's point of view, that she shared, and they've spoken multiple times, and I think they've spoken loudly. It's time for action from my point of view. And so I guess I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too, both ways, because I agree with you, but I think in this instance, it's time to move. And so if we could figure out a ratio of what we're paying for, and then from which account, I'd be willing to, at our next meeting or next time we have this on the agenda, be willing to consider that and vote in favor of it.
Can we see if we can do an RFP before then, instead of just know it would be the 3.2, but to actually see what the.
Yeah, we'll touch base to see where these numbers came from, if it's from the OFC, if that's acceptable, or if we have to do an RFP. But if we have to do our own internal RFP, it's usually out for at least 30 days.
Right.
And then there's like an evaluation process,
Right.
and then we've never drafted one of these, so there'll be time to research, and you have to put all the specifics in the RFP, so
Yeah.
that would take time as well. So that's another reason to kind of use the OSC if it's available.
Is it possible, and I don't know how this works exactly, to start asking, as Richard said, like, start saying, hey, we have this vision for these fields, it's on our short-term agenda. Can we start asking for sponsorships before we have said yes as a board, or do we have to say yes first before we can start exploring how much we think we could actually collect?
We can do whatever you would like us to do.
Okay.
There's nothing legal prohibiting us from saying, would you be willing, in the event that we chose to build these fields, would you be willing to purchase this sponsorship?
So I think it behooves us to start asking those questions too.
And I think it gives everyone a nice target if the board were to say, this is how much we're going to spend. Now everyone else knows on sponsorship, fundraising, and whatever else needs to be raised to fill the gap.
And what was your timeline to start asking for the football?
I have meetings starting next week, and I think at the end of our 2 keys that we want to start with are in the coming week, next week and the week after, I think.
So those will already be part of that conversation. So we'll start to get a sense here shortly. Those are things that I'd like to see, answers to some of those questions as we move forward. I really want to see that, like, what's our timeline to still start construction next summer?
So just to recap questions, RFP, sponsorships, the timeline for construction. Am I missing?
How long we have to wait to approve before, how long until construction to take place in the summer?
And then, I don't know if this is part of the question list, but we need to determine which fund, how we're paying for this, the source.
Okay. Good?
Good?
Okay. Jason, thank you. I know you put a lot of time and effort into this. We appreciate it and appreciate you being here with us into the evening hours.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Moving on, we got a couple other items for the board. Under business services, we have bus stops and routes. Be it resolved upon my recommendation that all bus routes and stops presented by the Transportation Department for this school year be approved, and that the operations manager and supervisor of transportation are authorized to adjust the routes and stops as necessary during the school year.
Cameron,
Yes.
out of curiosity, where are they presented?
The Transportation Department has them. This is in terms of, they're presented to Steve. He has those, he approves those. So if you would like to review them, you may.
I just want, eventually you're going to force me to scratch that itch.
Yes.
However, I just wanted to know where they're presented.
Yes,
Thank
Steve
you.
has them, reviews them, and puts them on the agenda, yeah.
Are they sometimes here?
I don't believe they've ever been, just because of the voluminous nature of them.
I'm just picturing Rich sleeping in the middle of the night and
Yes.
popping up and being like,
Looking at a big map of
Insomnia is a
Strongsville.
terrible thing to waste.
he's looking at a map and putting the flag on it.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, based on recent contractual negotiations, we changed things about a year ago. So the routes that they are driving right now, besides the change in mileage, are predominantly the routes from last year. Bidding happens in September, so the new routes that are presented are the routes based on the bidding that will happen in a couple weeks. 22nd. And I did share it in my parent update, but just as we're here, I shared that we will be starting a routing and safety committee. Their first meeting is tomorrow, so that's up and running. They've got some organizational things to do and some other people that have been in contact with us that they'll problem solve, but that's up and going too. And that gives us the, hey, routes may be adjusted and changed, which is there. Under number 2, this is an annual item about purchasing buses. So this gives our ability to participate in the Ohio Schools Councils. We've been talking about their cooperative bus and bidding and purchasing program, and authorizes the Ohio Schools Council to advertise and accept bids on our behalf as per the specifications submitted to purchase 2 35-passenger conventional school buses, school bus chassis, and bodies with lifts. So these are our smaller buses that we have in the fleet, that we need 2 additional ones based on the age of the rest of the fleet.
Looks like
And
that's
just to
an
give this as
action.
just to give this as an example, where school buses are required to be RFP bid, and the Ohio School Council does that on behalf of school districts. So that's being satisfied through that program.
And yes, it is an action item.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mr. Griffin. Refresh my memory, when we purchase these, which fund does this come out of?
Fund 3.
Fund 3, thank
Yeah,
you.
fund.
Okay.
And hopefully we get them.
Well,
'Cause in the
are we still
past-
waiting on any, or are we all
just got
caught up?
We just got 2 the other day. We cut the check for them today. That's why I know we got them.
You get them before you cut the check?
No, we got them first, and then we cut the check.
Oh, so you can get them before.
Yeah.
I mean, because of pandemic-related,
Yeah.
not construction, manufacturing issues, we've had situations where we've bought the bus, deliver
Waited
it,
years.
and we're still waiting for delivery.
All right. Any other questions, comments? George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Under curriculum, we have one item for some pass-through funds. So this, be upon my recommendation that the board enters into agreement with McKeon Education Group in the amount of $9,104.99 for one Title I instructor to service pupils attending Holy Family School under the Title I federal funding administration, or administered to the approved non-public school by our local school district. Under student services, there's 3 items for your consideration. 2 of them are changes from what was previously approved. So the first one is with PSI for services provided at Strongsville Middle School. The agreement that you approved at the August 22nd, 2024 meeting is still in place, just with the caveat that if the nursing services are provided is for a special needs classroom position, it shall be 36 and a quarter hours per week for 36 weeks for a total of 1,305 hours. The second item is changing the qualifications of the nursing services at the preschool. So again, the agreement that was approved in August 22nd, 2024 still stands, but we are going to move to an LPN for the 25-26 school year at the preschool with an increased cost of $6,879.60. And as you can see, the rate changed from $26.25 to $33.60 an hour.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
that? You said we're moving to an LPM.
Yeah.
What's the rationale for that?
Typically, it's due to the level of care and needs of the students, that they need that level of credential. Is that accurate? Yeah. The next item is a placement. So be it resolved upon my recommendation that we enter into an agreement with the Trust the Journey Academy for placement of a student with disabilities for this school year. Tuition rate is $82,500. One-time registration and materials fee of $500 for a total of $83,000, plus an additional $6,700 if the student attends extended school year. Any questions on the student service report? Under Human Resources, we do have a retirement for your consideration for item 1. Under item 2, we have game workers for this upcoming school year. And under item 3, we do have a memorandum of understanding between the Board of Education and the Strongsville Education Association as stated in the exhibit. As I shared with the board, this was a previously approved MOU. In the teacher's contract, last time we negotiated, we put it to a committee to take a look at parent-teacher conference nights. They came up with a plan. We put that plan in this year. The MOU had a sunset that say, we'll do this for 1 year and try it, and then this MOU will be over. Mike Scott and I have talked, and we are going to extend the MOU for this school year and the next 2 school years. So it goes through June of 2028. So no changes, just saying we're going to keep it for that life cycle, and then we'll take a look and see if there's any changes we need to make. There's no items under technology, so unless there's questions, that concludes my report.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is our consent calendar. Adoption of consent calendar, action by the Board of Education and adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda denoted as type-action consent, which items constitute the consent calendar, are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. Do you have anything that needs to be removed? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Bissell. George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes. Motion carries. Next, we have Board of Education Other. Our first item is Board Member Professional Development, the OSBA Capital Conference. Be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education grants approval for Michelle Bissell to attend the Ohio School Boards Association Capital Conference on November 16th through the 18th, 2025. The cost to register is $395. Polaris Career Center will reimburse the district 50% of the registration cost. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bissell?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Second, be it resolved that the Strongsville City School Board of Education grants approval for Kevin Griffin to attend the Ohio School Boards Association Capital Conference, November 16th through the 18th, 2025. The cost to register is $395. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
That was fast.
George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Abstain.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes. Motion carries. Third item, be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education grants approval for Laura Wolfhausum to attend the Ohio School Boards Association Capital Conference on November 16th through the 18th, 2025. The cost to register is $395. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Abstain.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Remember that time one person's was like 1 cent cheaper than the other person's? What was that?
All right, well, I'm looking forward to the Capitol Conference again this year, and I thank you guys for going with us, and I think it'll be very educational for us. Other, Board of Education, other miscellaneous, do we have any miscellaneous announcements?
Homecoming parade is next
Next
Thursday?
Thursday,
The 18th?
6:30. Yes, at the high school. Thank you, Haley. Any others? All right. Hearing none, we do have need for executive session to,
Consider matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes.
do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
George can take the roll.
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
We will enter into executive session at approximately 8:25. I do not see reason for us to resume public session, so have a great night.